Okay, everybody. Bonnie and I are having so much fun this weekend. We decided to do a second episode of the show.
Yes, fun. Fun.
We're both just about narcoleptic, just about out of it.
Yeah, you are. I did manage to get, 4.5 hours of sleep tonight before I'm up again?
So anyway, what were we talking about? You wanted me to pause and so we could put it on the recording.
Oh, you have a tendency to reflect on a lot of things. And when we were first married and you were getting into your art, I was still an active photographer at the time. I started documenting your paintings.
Okay.
And so we've got notebooks full of pictures of your old paintings. And you also go back and you review your old cartoons and you review our old shows.
Yeah.
And you've been doing that a lot lately. Before we started doing this series, Nothing But Worry, we recorded our trips to and from Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
You had had a series of seizures and accidents and other kind of things, and I ended up having to make the commute every night, drive you to work, come home, sleep a couple of hours if I was lucky, and then go back and pick you up. And your 125-mile commute became my 250-mile nightly commute. So I was spending 5 hours in the car, and you, as the passenger, it wasn't just enough for you to play DJ. You wanted to make it something useful. And after your surgery in 2017, when you had the massive seizure and 2 inches of tumor pulled out of your frontal lobe, you had sustained some brain damage. And you needed to deal with the trauma of what had happened. I admit I needed to deal with it too, because I pulled you out of a tub while you were drowning and seizing. And for you, it was really important for you to try to understand what had happened to you and try to reconnect some of the gaps that had happened. And you suddenly had access to a lot of old memories. And so we spent the trips to and from documenting the therapy of sorts.
Well, I've been listening to some episodes we did 3 years ago, and they're really fun. I really like talking to you. It's been a really good weekend. I got a bunch of drawing done, got a painting done, got some videos posted. I'm just about burned out though. I need to sleep solid 10 hours. We need to go to the dump tomorrow.
That's today.
Well, today. Drop off stuff on the metal pile. And you said you had some donations.
Yeah, I thought we could do those tomorrow when we go get our COVID boosters.
Okay.
No point in going the opposite way into town.
Today's Saturday?
Today's Saturday right now. How do you feel listening to that old stuff?
It's entertaining. I like hearing your voice. We talk well together.
Sometimes nonstop.
We communicate together easily.
I suspect you really like the sound of your own voice more than anything, my dear.
Not true.
Yes,
Not true.
yes.
Oh dear, I want this election over, and I want to clear some stuff away, out of my head. Just, I feel like the election is just an unnecessary psychic toll. It's just nothing you can do about it.
What I find amazing is that the country is nearly divided on who they're choosing for president. Trump is a blithering idiot. we looked at footage from his Detroit Economic Forum speech, and the way he rambles on and on, I've dealt with Alzheimer's, folks, and he has Alzheimer's. He has some other problems too. How anyone could possibly like him, appreciate him, respect him is beyond me. He attracts the absolute worst types. What he represents in society is the worst of society. He is doom and gloom because that is what he is.
Well, I think it's that there's a dedicated 40 to 45% of the population that hates Democrats and blacks and women and liberals so much that that's their motivation. Not that they love Trump so much, you know.
And then there's 10% of the population who are so hung up on being, what's the right word? Will not compromise. There is no way of going. They're so principled that they can't step beyond it. The Bernie bros who won't listen to Bernie when he says, folks, Trump is a existential threat to America. And he's not going to vote for Trump because he knows what Trump is. Yet the Bernie bros out there will just go, oh, we're so principled, we can't bend. Despite the fact that we've already lost the Supreme Court for the next 30 years. Despite the fact that Trump embraces the worst aspects of human nature and has those who embrace those aspects in his thrall. I'm confused. What is wrong with America that they don't see the difference between the two candidates?
It's, I always blame Christianity, but it's also blind devotion to tradition, you know.
There's something there. You said religion. Religion teaches people to follow something blindly without questioning. And when you sign up for some ideology, whether it's Christianity or being a Bernie bro, you start following that, and you're such a true believer that you're not going to question it anymore, man. You can't think outside the box. You can't think for yourself anymore. And you end up going to the internet and you find your little group of people who affirm who you are, man. We back you up. Yeah, men are better than women. And the Joe Rogans of the world types, you know?
Yeah, but I'm thinking about people who, I mean, there's some of them are really crazy Christians, but some of them are just people who think that the ways of our grandparents are best, and
yeah, there's that too.
No, Lord.
Those are the types of people who really don't like change. That don't like
No,
progress.
they don't. The whole the world is changing, and they can't deal with it. So the thing is to just,
revert to what they know,
exactly.
what they were brought up in. It's safer not to think for themselves.
Well, oh Lord, I'm so out of it.
You want to call it quits?
No, let's keep going.
Okay.
I thought there was something specific we were going to talk about. I can't remember.
You were talking about the videos that we used to make.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I missed listening to whole albums with you in the car.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that.
That cheap little CD player I have in the studio is just tinny sound. I listened to a couple of I did after my surgery in November of 2017. My head was just so shaken. I mean, my psyche was so shaken by the whole experience that I was out of work 5 weeks, and I recorded 2 albums back to back, and they're just some of the most incisive lyrics I've ever done, stuff about my drinking and stuff about my parents, and just anger at the whole experience of the surgery. So anyway, I was listening to some of those. I went in my room and got those two CDs out and brought them into the studio and played them on the little CD player. And since they're homemade CDs, that we recorded and made with a computer, they skip on this stupid CD player.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I missed the big 5 disc turntable, changer thing.
What happened? Did it finally just break?
Yeah, it just broke. Yeah. Apparently, the problem with the tray spinning around and around is a common problem with that model.
It's so hard to find decent home stereo systems anymore because everyone's defaulted to this little handheld phone to get all their data and music and stuff, so they just plug it into some speaker when they get home.
Yeah.
And so that's what's become part of the overwhelming seller on the market. And so this attention to home audio stereo systems is just gone. You can't find the numbers. You can't find a variety of them, and certainly not good quality anymore. I've been looking for the last couple of years trying to find stuff.
We use a DVD player to play our CDs, and it's not very good.
Crap.
We listened to some music earlier tonight, and there listened to what?
Sanford and Son theme. Thanks, Lance.
Yeah.
Now it's stuck in my head.
We listened to Jeepers Creepers by Louis Armstrong and Jack Teagarden, and I used to have that exact recording of it on a cassette that I bought at Six Flags over Georgia. I went on a church youth group trip to Six Flags, and I don't know why Six Flags used to sell stuff like that, cause records and posters and stuff at little stores. Anyway, I got this Louis Armstrong collection on cassette, and I've been trying to put together all the songs that were on it on like a playlist, and I still can't remember all the songs, but that version of Jeepers Creepers was on that cassette. It's the exact same recording. And it's just funny how, I must have been 14 when I got that. Because I
nerdy kid.
I didn't listen to rock and roll back then. And I just was in love with that music at that age. And listening to it now on YouTube, I still get the goosebumps because I had memorized every single nuance of that recording.
Abba Mina.
Oh, Miniaba
That's what it is, Miniaba.
by the George Abdo Orchestra.
Yeah, you sent us that one too.
Great piece of like Turkish belly dancing music.
North African belly dancing music.
Miniaba, Miniaba.
Oh, Lord. That reminds me of all the times we go up to Atlanta and put on some sort of out there ethnic world music kind of thing. Remember the African compilation we got from the library?
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the songs now. Christ.
The one that we really, really liked, I can't think of the name of it. It's the Putumayo Records African Groove collection.
Oh, yeah. They have the discoteca song on it, but they also have the one where that lady's shaking her butt at on the camera.
Yeah. I can't think of the name of that song.
Damn, that was such a good song.
Oh, me. 4-day weekend. Man, get my head straight.
Who's that other person we used to listen to all the time? African.
Oh, Angelique Kidjo?
Yes.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
I have this book here of how to teach children's art.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's full of great pictures. I have 3 different editions of this book, and in one of them it has that foil what would you call that? It's a kind of sculpture, but
Make an impression. I remember doing it in middle school because I went to a proper school in middle school.
that's not repoussé, is it?
I don't know what it is. But you would draw on the foil and then make a print using it.
Yeah, it seems to me that art classes at public school were better.
Hell yeah. We had industrial arts too. You gotta take apart a motorcycle engine, put it back together, and a lawnmower engine, put it back together. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. We had woodworking tools and everything. Yeah, we got to play with sharp instruments. Something they wouldn't allow these days.
There's a book I'm looking for. It's called Art from Home, or I'm sorry, Art from Found Materials, and I can see it in my head. It's like from 1967 or something, hardback book, and because it's got that foil technique. It's where you take a piece of cardboard and you draw the image on the cardboard. Then you use like Elmer's glue to go over the lines with lines of glue, and you wait for it to dry. And then you use the foil to mash down on it, going around every single little raised thing. And then you rub
We
shoe
didn't
polish
do
on
it
it.
that way. We would draw a line, print, simple line drawing on paper, and then we would put the foil down on top of cardboard. The spongier, the better. And no, that's not true. We would use cardboard, and we would press down on the paper on top, then the foil, then the cardboard, and then we would draw over it. It would leave an impression on the foil itself.
Hmm.
And then we would turn it over and we would paint it and then place something over it or something like a print. There were several different ways of doing that technique. It was weird.
I think logically the book is going to be in one of these bottom sections.
I was thinking it was in your room.
I thought so too, but I didn't see shit.
You are half asleep, dude.
I thought it was with those books, those children's art books.
Where were those?
You know the bookshelf?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
You know the bookshelf that's under my light switch?
Yeah.
It's in there behind the chair.
See, this is why I like having all the art books together instead of spread out all over the house, Lance.
Yeah, but some of these are teaching books. Some of them are.
But they all belong in the art section, dear.
What art section? We got art all over the damn house.
Only because we've run out of room. But
It is amazing, isn't it? I mean, we're poor people, and we have all this shit.
yeah, it's because the book sales and secondhand crap.
Yeah, you know, I have a handful of books that I bought for full price at places like Borders or Barnes and Noble, and I think, why did I do that? That book I'm reading, Hopscotch by Cortázar, it's like $19. I remember I bought that brand new at Borders, like a fool.
And don't we have some more Julio Cortázar up there on that section?
Shouldn't be, no. It should be all together.
Is it on the double-sided bookshelf?
No. They're in my room. They're over my bed. That's right.
Okay.
Because I've only got two of his books here.
Well, we didn't pay $19 for the others, I can assure you that.
No,
Yeah, our house is nothing but secondhand stuff. And things that we've adapted. I'm looking at the art over here on the walls. I've got a painting that came from your mother. I've got a picture I bought from a local artist for dirt cheap. There's a couple of your prints up here. A couple collages, one of your prints. Another one of your prints down there. And then thrift store, made that from a book. That's some of your
a
art.
book.
A book. That's a Belami for a book. Then that's a print that you did. It's ink. And then that is something I printed off the internet, the real Rowalt. And then that came from Jim's when I was working at the antique store. And these are the only things that I spent real money on. That print over there is a Japanese
It's beautiful.
wood print.
It really is beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Reed and I went to an antique store, and I decided that I was going to buy art for our anniversary. It was going to be a gift to us together, and it is phenomenal. And then next to it is a $10 print. It's a limited edition. It's got a numbered print, lithograph. It's gorgeous.
Reminds me, I need a little tiny, tiny frame. I found a tiny Vibro at work. I suppose I should explain what a Vibro is.
Yes, please.
It is my term for a piece of paper that you find on the ground that has been stepped on, folded up and stepped on and scuffed so that when you look at it, it forms some sort of image. It's either something specific or just something evocative. So I found this little tiny Vibro at work the other day, and I thought, if I get a tiny little frame for it, it'd be perfect.
God, looking around this room, I mean, I remember where some of them came from, but I can't remember others where they came from.
What, artwork?
Just everything. I mean, I bought myself 2 cloisonne brass vases up there that have cloisonne on them for my birthday a couple of years ago. And they were like, what, $5 and $10? And then that whole shelf unit there is stuff I've collected over the years.
Well, this lady that used to babysit my sister and me when we were about, oh God, I really didn't even know how old we were. She had this box, like a display cabinet in her living room with sliding glass front panels. And it was just full of little tchotchkes, little tiny glass statues and things. And she was very strict, don't open the box, don't go picking through there. So that when you looked through the glass, the things that were further back in the back of the cabinet were darker. It was like a forest or something. The way, like there were hidden things in the back. You wanted to take everything out and look at it. I think she said you've been collecting some of that stuff, 50 years.
Yeah, my grandmother had one of those. It was a little corner cabinet with little bitty tchotchkes on it. And they were all, like Japan, made in Japan stamp sort of things. It used to be you could go into 5 and dime stores and you would just get these little things, these little trinkets, and some of them are now very collectible. Others are just, neither here nor there.
What happened to that sort of flimsy small wooden rack I had up on the wall next to the light switch, where I had little toys and tiny little things up on it? You know what I'm talking about?
Isn't it to the left of your desk on the wall?
No, there's nothing. You remember that I had that little blue plastic businessman from when I was like a baby? I'd shoot his head up.
I don't remember what you did with that.
See, my grandmother had something like that, but it was shaped like a barn, maybe. And she had this little tiny plastic or glass roosters and chickens on it, and other little doohickeys like that on it. Oh dear. When my grandfather died, the plan had been for my father and I to buy his old house. But so my parents and all the children went off for the reading of the will, and the woman he married late in life persuaded him to change the will so she could stay there until she died. And so, I was so disappointed because I wanted to buy that place. But as it turns out, it was probably for the best that we didn't get that place.
It was all of 1,200 square feet. It was something ridiculous. And when they did put it on the market, they wanted like $230,000 for what amounted to a concrete block bunker with a tin roof and no central heating and air. And they had a big wood furnace in the living room and concrete poured floors. I never wanted that place,
It had a wooden roof with regular shingles.
It was ugly.
But the thing is, I would have gotten that workshop out back. Could have been a painting studio.
This place is so much nicer than that. I mean, if it had been 100,000, I might have considered it. But do you remember the kitchen in there was just an alleyway? It was just long and narrow. A galley.
Yeah. But
It was an ugly little place, and there was that nasty ass wood paneling on some of the walls in the bedrooms. There was one bathroom.
no, there were two bathrooms. No, yeah, there's one bathroom, two toilets.
It was a terrible place. It was a dump.
Yeah, it worked out better that we got this instead of that.
Yeah.
But I was so furious. My mother was furious because none of the children would stand up to the changing of the will. Like, well, that's what Daddy wanted, so I guess we just better. And this woman stole money from my grandfather.
She had him sell off land, and that money just disappeared. Didn't we go to school with her grandson?
Her grandson, I believe, was Mike Kelly's age, so a good bit older.
Well, I had a class with Mike Kelly.
Well, you weren't in the same homeroom class, but you might have taken.
No, I was a freshman. He was a senior. I had senior classes when I went to that school. Because there was nothing there.
I took I took two electives at the same time when you're only supposed to take one, and that was part of the argument my mother made for them to give me the my diploma, even though I flunked one of the classes. Speech, public speaking was the class I failed, and they were going to withhold my diploma. I had to take a correspondence. Well, what happened was I had to take a correspondence course over the summer to qualify for getting the actual high school diploma. Well, my mother found there's another boy, the same thing. He flunked the speech class, and he had to do the same thing. Well, his mother got tired of dicking around, waiting around for them to give him his diploma, so she went up there and said, "The course is over. Give me the diploma now." So when my mother found out, she did the same thing. She went there and said, he took extra electives. The speech thing is nonsense, and we've been waiting around long enough. And the principal of the school said, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this," and my mother held her hand out like, "Give me the damn diploma."
Well, they sent me over to go to that school, and there were no classes for me because I had 3 years worth of high school classes while I was in middle school because of the academic track I was on. And I was supposed to go over to high school and go directly into the honors and the AP classes. Because there was this select group of us from this school that I had gone to, and there weren't even a dozen of us that were on this academic track. And suddenly I get sent to this crappy religious school. There was nothing in the way of classes. I had taken all of my maths, everything, in middle school. So my senior year, they come to me and go, "We're going to have to get a waiver from the state for you to graduate because you haven't taken all the classes in high school." And I said, "Because I took them in middle school." I said, "Yeah, well, we're going to have to get a waiver." So I technically graduated not with a degree from there, but from the state. Because they were that fucked up. I had been taking the same history courses year after year. Because there was nowhere to put me. Because I'd already had all the maths classes. And the science classes over there were the fucking joke. Fred Hall was the biggest fucking idiot.
Yeah. I'll say this: the only thing, really the only thing of use that I got from going to that school was typing class, because I learned to type properly on an old typewriter, and not look at the keys when you're typing, and that was that proved useful later. But aside from that, I can't think of shit that they taught us.
Did we have study hall periods over there?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there were a couple years. I think I had 2 study halls a day or something.
I think you told me that, yeah.
It was ridiculous. And my mother's like, well, if you want to get out of there, that means you should stay there. What the fuck? Idiot.
If you hate it, it must be good for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's give you spankings on your birthday. What the fuck? Yeah, it's that same lack of thinking.
That school, Jesus. I mean, just out and out racist, pro-Confederacy.
Oh God, the whole Tower of Babel. Well,
Yeah.
obviously, the God wanted us to keep the races separate. That's why we have the Tower of Babel, and that's why we don't allow interracial dating like Bob Jones University. Oh my God.
Yeah. And the science classes were horrible.
They weren't science. They were lab experiments.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. I remember some of the kids that went there were like preachers' kids, or their parents were heavily involved with the church or the evangelical movement. And we had this kid whose father was an assistant pastor at one of the big churches in Athens. And I said something about how much television I watched the day before. And it was like Thursday nights when I was a kid, you could watch after school like 6 hours of television straight through. No homework. But anyway, so I mentioned...
Is this the year of Magnum and Simon dear?
No, they came on... they came on Thursdays too. I can't remember.
Anyway.
But anyway, there was a certain night that you had The Incredible Hulk, The Dukes of Hazzard, and Dallas on CBS,
Jesus.
one after the other. So I told this kid, I watched this, finishing up with Dallas, and he looked at me with horror, and he goes, "Your parents let you watch Dallas?" Oh my God, how pathetic.
Yeah, he was the one that was a freak, right? He was like born deficient in certain ways.
I don't know about that, but his parents,
woman hips.
yeah, but his parents had raised him crazy. They made him buy his own clothes from the time he was like 10, and anyway,
Wasn't the rumor that he had a micro penis?
I don't know, but anyway, so the school was constantly sending the kids out to raise funds, and every year it was something different. Fruitcake one year, footies one year, this. Anyway, so he got in trouble with the school because he was selling the merchandise for more than he was required to, and he was pocketing the difference. And somebody had come by from the school and asked this old lady to buy whatever the fundraising product was. And then here he comes, like later that same day, charging more. So she called the school and told him, and he got in trouble for that.
But they made him buy his own socks. His parents wouldn't buy him the essentials. And then he would come to school and he had threadbare clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
His dad was the associate preacher, and his mom ran the pregnancy center, which was an anti-abortion thing.
Well, they had
freaks.
The private Christian school that we went to didn't associate with the public schools for the most part. Not in sports and not in academic competitions or whatever.
Because they couldn't.
So we were in a league or group with other Christian schools in the state, and they would have these art or what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, art gatherings where you compete in like extemporaneous speech or like choral, stuff like that. Anyway, so we went on this trip, a whole bunch of us in a couple of school buses, to some other school somewhere in the state. And this kid we're talking about, he had memorized a Bill Cosby comedy sketch about going to the dentist. And that was going to be his one-man performance, And we were like in like a theater, and when it was time for him to get up on the stage, I ran out and I hid in the bathroom upstairs because I didn't want to hear it. I went in the toilet stall and plugged my ears with my fingers, but I could hear his racket, his caterwauling, and I could hear people laughing, and I just wanted it over so bad. And now, because Bill Cosby was a clean comedian.
Now we know what he was really up to.
Yeah. Oh my God. I had to do we went. Bob Jones University would host like similar things for high school all over the country or whatever, and I went on one. I had to stay in one of the dorms with these college guys. Anyway, one of the things I was entered in was extemporaneous speech, and so at the last minute they would hand you your topic, and you had like 30 minutes to put some notes together or something. And mine was about vigilantism, and so I don't know if you remember the story in the Bible of the Garden of Gethsemane when the soldiers come to pick up Christ. You know what I'm talking about?
Vaguely.
Peter, in his haste, he cuts off the ear of one of the soldiers, and Jesus picks the ear up and magically reattaches it to the soldier's head.
Magical powers.
And so I mentioned that as Peter took the law in his own hands, and this shows us that vigilantism is bad or something. And this woman was nodding her head like, yes, good point. Good. Oh my God.
So that kind of reminds me, a couple weeks ago we had the presidential debate between Trump and Kamala Harris, and she just mopped the floor with his nasty little toupee. And all of his supporters came out. They treated him unfairly. And, this is a guy who comes and he refuses to go on normal television. He turned down the CBS 60 Minutes interview, which is a legacy thing. And he can't handle the pressure outside of his safety zone. And that's what those Christian schools are like. That's why they compete against each other in these little things. Because they can't hold a candle to public education. And critical thinking, that goes against everything they believe in. How dare you think for yourself? You must follow blindly.
When I look back, what a bunch of nerds we were. It's just unbelievable.
It was Snowflake Central over there. You couldn't compete in the real world. So they had to create this little safe zone.
I think I've mentioned this before. They weren't fully
Accredited.
supplied with all the materials they needed to teach. They weren't fully supplied with materials from Christian publishers, so they often had to rely on outside material. And in science class, whenever they would show some video documentary, and if they mentioned millions of years, the teacher would laugh out loud, encouraging all the kids to laugh out loud at this ludicrous idea that the universe was millions of years old. So I got so used to doing this, every time I heard millions of years, to bark out laughter. We're watching a video one day, and it's about the solar system, and it says, the Earth is 63 million miles from the sun. And I burst out laughing, like, how ludicrous, millions of miles. Oh, God.
That's so sad. And there are kids still being brainwashed today in these Christian schools.
I know.
They hate public schools because they teach facts, things that can be verified, and they teach critical thinking.
They don't like the implications of what modern science says. That we're just basically biological robots, programmed not only how to look, but partially programmed how to behave.
Well, that's the thing. Science also has different fields that explore what it means to be human or humanity, and the philosophical constructs that we create among ourselves. And so they'll take this little bitty idea, we're just animals, we act like animals, and they run with that. But the fact of the matter is, like evolution, all of these things are part of the larger sciences. And this all goes to show what we have become and what we have evolved into. Something more than this tribalistic, animalistic idea that they promote.
Well, they think that, if there's no God, then what's to stop you from raping and killing? And that's, it doesn't make any
What
sense.
type of person are you?
Yeah, that's what you default to. Whoa. Only thing stopping me from raping is the threat of Big Daddy in the sky.
There's something wrong with you, and that's where some of the other sciences need to step in. The psychiatry, the medical sciences with the pills to modify your behavior.
I remember Malcolm Muggeridge, I believe, was Catholic. He was a writer, and he was I don't know that he anyway, he was like a public advocate in the UK
Was
for
he the one
tradition
of the ones
and
that John Cleese went up against publicly?
I don't know if he was one of the ones in that thing about Life of Brian or not, but there's a famous like debate he did in the 70s with somebody, some atheist, and the atheist is like, well, there's no God, and he turns to him and says, I don't understand why, if you truly believe that, you don't just go out and kill and rape as much as possible. And I would have been like, is that what you would do? Is that all that's holding you back? Is your belief in the Magic Man?
Yeah. We brought up our children as atheists, and we realized that you can be good without God. We brought them up with morals, and it's interesting. They have this overwhelming idea about there is God. My overwhelming idea was you have to exist within society. In order to do that, you need to stay on the correct side of the law. You need to stay on the correct side of social mores and a number of other things. And these people have to rely on some sort of religious system to keep themselves in place. What does it say about people that can't construct the idea of being good for the sake of being good?
Well,
For
also,
the sake of existing within society, for the sake of getting along with others, for the sake of just being a decent fucking human being.
well, another motivation that why they're so loyal to this faith is because of death. And to them, death just ruins it. If life doesn't last forever, then it's no good. It's imperfect, and I'd rather believe in a tissue of lies beyond the grave, than they actively hate life, actively hate
That's true.
humanity.
They deny themselves their own passions, the ability to enjoy things. I think about people that are in your family who can't even enjoy sex because their parents taught them such and such, and they follow with that tradition and that belief system. People who can't enjoy life.
Well,
Why would I take any advice from them?
Christianity almost completely ruined my ability to enjoy sex. First of all, chopped off half my dick when I was a baby out of some barbaric, tradition. But then there was this really crazy old-fashioned evangelist that used to come around the school every once in a while and give a week's worth of lectures or sermons. And this must have been about 7th or 8th grade when I was really, really just overwhelmed by pubescent horniness. And this guy made such a fuss one time about the immorality of masturbation and all this. I actually made myself stop masturbating for like months and months. And
That's not healthy.
it sort of twisted something in my head.
That's not healthy at all.
No, it really fucked me up. This whole, I don't know.
Yeah, so much so that I had to handle the conversation with the kids about masturbation. You didn't touch it.
Long, long time ago, I was watching TV with the kids, and something comes on about condoms, and my son goes, "Hey, Pop, what's a condom?" And I sat there for a second, and I yelled, "Bonnie!"
You want me to finish the answer?
Yeah. So Bonnie comes back there and like, "What's going on?" And I said, tell him what a condom is."
So the kids were like 5 and 7 at this point. They're
Yeah.
little bitty things, but they know the right words, penis, etc. And I've already had the basic conversation, and we had a basic children's book for that age, and so they understood about penis goes inside vagina and seed, you know. And so I said a condom is like a giant sock or a sleeve that fits over the penis and it keeps the seed from getting into the lady. And so Lance was like, okay, thanks.
It was such
It
a
was so basic.
simple answer, and I couldn't think of it.
Yeah, the book we have it's still somewhere around here. It was a great little book. And it was done, I think, with colored construction paper. The characters in there were made of colored construction paper. And you had the doggy mounting another doggy, a kitty mounting another kitty. And then you had a picture of mommy and daddy in the bed, and you see them with the sheet up over them and their arms over the covers so you can tell they're not wearing anything. And it was like, it was the most basic, simple thing. Animals have babies. We have babies too. And we have to have sex in order to do this. And it was just laid out perfectly for that age.
Well, the way I found out about sex was the school bus used to drop us off at my mother's post office every day after school. This is fourth grade. Get off the bus, go into the post office, and my mother hands me this box with 4 books in it. Like, it's a famous series, The Cycle of Life or something. I can't remember what it was called. And she hands me this and goes, "Here, you need to read this." And I opened one of the books, and it was like illustrations of naked people. And I thought, "Oh God, here we go. This is what this is about. This is like a growing up thing, you know." And I couldn't really figure out what from reading the books. I really couldn't figure out what sex was, and what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, my dad, I guess my freshman year in high school, I went over to visit him on a weekend. He goes, I guess you've already had to talk with your mom since you've already had your monthly cycle and such. And
Oh, nice.
he said, I want to go ahead and give you this. He said, I think it's a great book. It came out when I was in school or something or another. And he said, there's going to be a lot of awkwardness and a lot of things that you hear. And this is a great book. It's everything you always wanted to know about sex, but were afraid to ask. Mm-hmm. The first thing I looked up was blowjob because I always heard about it, but I couldn't understand the concept of it. Here I was thinking, what is the etymology of this word? That's how nerdy of a kid I was.
I'll tell you a story. In the basketball gym at school, they had locker rooms for boys and girls. Anyway, David Coulter, who was horny from the time I first met him in 5th grade.
Yes, he was.
He and me and maybe Richard, I can't remember who else. It was just like 2 or 3 of us. Went into the basketball locker room, and he had this picture he'd cut out of a magazine, and it was this blonde woman laid back on like a black fur down on the floor by the fireplace with her legs spread, and I had never seen a picture of a naked woman with the
Bush?
with the labia hanging out, hanging out between amongst the hair. And it was just, on the one hand, they're revolting, but on the other hand, extremely erotic.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I had to stage everything with the kids when they were growing up, do it that was age appropriate. And I found talking to the kids about sex was easy. What was difficult was talking to them about all the different changes they were going through on their lives. You know, first you get hair where? Things like that. And the reason that I found it difficult was because I remembered the embarrassment that I had at that point. And for a kid to be experiencing the changes of puberty, it's very personal at that moment. You're feeling very awkward about what you're going through. And I remembered that awkwardness of the everything changing shape and getting hair and different smells and all that. You're revolted by it at a certain level.
Ashamed of it, really.
Ashamed of it, yeah. And so it was harder to approach those type of things. And so for the kids, what I did was I bought a series of books that were appropriate at the time. For the girls, they had the American Doll series, American Girl Doll or something.
Yeah.
And they had a whole thing about that. So I gave them to read, and I said, you need to read these. And this will talk to you about what's going on with some of the changes you're experiencing. Because I knew that it would be harder for me because I didn't want to embarrass them any more than what they were going through.
Yeah.
Whereas the sex was something that was out there. It's in the future. It's not what they're experiencing now. And so I think our kids have a very sex positive attitude in their relationships. A little bit too much for me sometimes because I'm their mom and they're a little too open still.
My parents would do anything they could to shame me, make me feel
And
embarrassed.
that's sad. And it's not something you should feel ashamed about. But yet, there is that awkwardness of trying to grow up and come into being, and you're constantly trying to compare yourself to others, or you're being compared to others. It's an awkward thing, you know. The growing up is hard enough. Why make the sex part of it difficult, you know?
Oh, let's see how much time we got here. 52 minutes. Better showing than yesterday.
We were delirious and not feeling well. We're getting better, I think.
It's a funny feeling. I'm sleepy on the one hand, but I'm wired on the other.
I can't believe how much I've slept in the last 48 hours. I mean, I'm obviously getting over something.
I've barely slept at all in the last 36 hours.
Yuck. That's not good.
Oh, me. Well, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to wrap this up, and then I'm going to look for that goddamn book.
What goddamn book?
Art from Found Materials.
Yeah.
It's lots of cool stuff in there. I
thought it was over your desk.
I'll look again. Those paintings are in the way that are hung on the shelves. But I'd like to go through that book and that children's art book with you.
Yeah.
Some cool stuff in there. All right, anything else to add?
No. Nice sitting down and talking with you again.
It is nice. All right. Okay, that's it. See you everybody later.